My dad left me his taxidermy shop and one rule, handwritten on a scrap of paper beneath his workbench. The lights in the showroom must stay on at night. The faces know your face. I grew up in my father's shadow, and his shadow was filled with glass eyes and preserved fur. We lived in a small house attached to a much larger showroom, a gallery of death tucked into the Rockies. My dad was a taxidermist, a brilliant one. He could make a dead thing look like it had just paused mid-stride forever. That was his art. It was my inheritance. When he died, just sat down at his bench one day and stopped, a faint smile on his lips. There was nothing else for me to do but take over. The shop was my entire world. It felt emptier without him, but it was still familiar. The deer heads on the walls, the mountain lion snarling from its rock, the birds forever frozen in flight. I knew every stitch. A few days after the funeral, I found a note folded under his workbench, written in his shaky hand. It said, "Son, no matter what, the lights of the showroom must stay on at night. The faces know your face." It was weird, but Dad said weird things. He'd always insisted on keeping the showroom lights burning. He said it was for presentation, to keep the colors from fading. I tucked the note in my pocket and didn't think much of it. Life went on. Work piled up. A few weeks later, I was exhausted, finishing a big order late into the night. On autopilot, I flipped off all the lights, workshop and showroom, and trudged upstairs to bed. I slept hard until about 3 in the morning, when a crash downstairs jolted me awake, then scratching. A persistent, dry scraping sound coming from the showroom. My heart hammered. I grabbed a pocket knife from my nightstand and crept downstairs, the old floorboards groaning under my weight. The scratching stopped. I shouted into the dark hallway, "Who's there?" Silence. I flipped on the hall light, its weak yellow glow not reaching far into the vast black showroom, and I saw them. 2 small, pale gray spheres of light, reflecting back at me from the darkness. Eyes. I fumbled for the showroom switch, my breath caught in my throat. The lights blazed on, the eyes were gone. All that was there, directly in line with where they'd been, was the mounted head of a large buck on the far wall. I let out a shaky laugh. "Just the damn deer," I muttered to myself. Of course, taxidermy eyes are just beads or glass. They don't reflect light, a real deer's eyes do. It had to be a trick of the dark, my tired mind connecting dots that weren't there. Feeling foolish but still wired, I walked in to investigate the crash. I found a red fox display toppled on its side. I righted it, noticing fresh, deep scratches on the wall behind it. Okay, I thought a raccoon must have gotten in. That explained the noise, the crash. I checked all the doors and windows. Everything was locked tight. That detail should have bothered me more than it did. I left the showroom light on and went back to bed. As I was drifting off, a quiet, logical thought surfaced, one I immediately pushed away. A real deer's eyes reflect, a mount's eyes don't. The next morning, everything seemed normal. The buck was just a buck. I fixed the fox with some glue. Then, as I passed one of my dad's prize pieces, a mountain lion posed to pounce, jaws open in a frozen snarl. I stopped cold. Its mouth was closed. I stared. I rubbed my eyes. The jaw was shut tight, as if it had never been open. That doesn't happen. Glue fails, a closed jaw might sag open over time. But an open jaw doesn't just seal itself shut. I touched it, it was solid, unmoved. For the first time standing there in that room full of dead things I'd known my whole life, I didn't feel like a curator. I felt like a trespasser. The air felt thick, charged with a silent, waiting anger. Every glass eye seemed focused on me. I got out of there for a few hours, drove an order into town. When I came back, steeling myself to look at the lion, its mouth was open again. The snarl was back. I stood there, my skin crawling. My mind was the only explanation. Grief, stress, isolation, it had to be playing tricks on me. I decided to believe that. It was easier. For a while it worked. I kept the lights on day and night. I started avoiding the showroom, using the outside doors to get to the workshop. Life almost felt normal again. Then, a chance to get away. A friend's wedding, a hotel a couple hours drive. I made sure every light in the showroom was blazing before I locked up and left. The wedding was fine. A blizzard rolled in that night. I was reading in the hotel lobby when the power went out, not just the hotel. The front desk guy said the whole region was dark. My blood went cold. I drove home through the storm, 4 hours of white-knuckled terror. When I pulled up to my property, it was a dark silhouette against the snow. No lights. The power was out here, too. I remembered my dad's emergency generator in the back of the showroom. I just had to get to it. The front door of the showroom was slightly ajar. I know I locked it. I pushed it open, the beam from my phone flashlight cutting a weak swath through the blackness. The mounts were still on the walls. The displays still stood on the floors. But every single animal was gone. The heads were missing from the mounts. The bodies were gone from the displays. The room was a hollow shell. My light shook as I swept it around. Nothing. I moved toward the back corner where the generator was. It was there, or what was left of it was there. It looked like it had been mauled by a bear, metal twisted and torn. As I stared at the wreckage, a deafening crash of metal on wood echoed from the workshop, tools being thrown to the floor. I turned, pointing my trembling light at the open workshop doorway. Darkness. I inched closer, the beam piercing the doorway. There was a shape there, hunched over my father's workbench. It was huge, its lumpy back brushing the ceiling. It was eating, gnawing on a half-finished deer mount. My light traced over it. Its body was a grotesque patchwork. Tufts of tawny lion fur blended into matted deer hide. Bird feathers sprouted from its shoulders. Alligator scales glinted dully on one leg. It was a crude, shambling form, roughly man-shaped, stitched together from a dozen different dead things. It was stiff, rotting, a puppet made of corpses. The light hit its back. It froze. I stopped breathing. Slowly it turned. Its head was the massive, mounted head of an elk, but fused into one side of its neck was the snarling face of a bear. On the other side, the sly, narrow face of a fox. 3 sets of eyes, all reflective, all dead, locked onto me. A wet, gurgling sound rattled from the elk's throat. It shifted, warped into a coyote's scream, then an elk's bugle, and finally pushed out a single, toneless word. Yaowu. It was the sound of something that shouldn't have a voice, trying to use one. I was stone. Fear held me to the spot. It lurched forward with shocking speed and grabbed my right wrist. Its grip was crushing, like frozen leather over stone. Yaowu, it said again, this time with a rasping fury. Its other hand, a twisted claw of antler and bone, closed around 2 of my fingers. Wyoyu, it screamed, a chorus of animal rage in one distorted voice. It ripped my fingers from my hand. The pain was a white-hot explosion. I screamed, blood arcing onto the floor. It let go of my wrist and calmly pressed my twitching, severed fingers against its own patchwork hand. They stuck there, wiggling weakly, becoming part of it. It looked at me with all 3 faces. Then it backhanded me across the room. I hit the wall, ribs cracking, and slid to the floor. Dazed through a haze of pain, I saw it start toward me. I crawled, dragging myself to the workshop's back door, fell out into a deep snowdrift. I stumbled to my feet and ran, or tried to, into the woods behind the house. The snow was knee-deep. Behind me, I heard a roar that became an elk's call. It was following. I ran until my lungs burned and my broken ribs screamed. I ran until my hands and feet went numb. I fell, got up, fell again. I don't know how long it chased me. I remember the sky starting to lighten and collapsing onto the snowy shoulder of the road into town. A trucker found me. I've been in the hospital for days. They say I'm lucky. I lost 2 fingers. I might lose more to frostbite. My ribs are wrapped. And every night when it gets dark, I look out my hospital window. At the edge of the distant tree line, where the streetlights don't reach, it stands. A mismatched, hulking silhouette, watching. And on the night air, carried on the wind, I can hear it. Not a roar or a howl. A mangled, gurgling whisper, threaded through with the sounds of the forest it was made from. It knows my face. My dad's note wasn't a warning about preservation. It was a warning about recognition. All those faces he gave such perfect, lifelike attention, they were learning. And in the dark, when the lights went out, they remembered what they saw. They remembered me. Has a place or a memory ever made you feel truly watched?